Hi everybody, back with videos. I'm going to do the winter postbox, we'll call it, which is one of this month's patterns. I've printed out my pattern. I'm doing the smaller size. I've laid it over some parchment paper, stuck it down with some of the duct tape, gaffer tape, whatever you call it. It's about the only thing that will stick. Although I have found that masking tape works. Got some masking tape up here, that works okay as well. And I've already made a slight start. What I've done is I'm going to do the snow bit first. So I've drawn around this area onto parchment paper. And then cut my parchment paper out to the shape that I want. Sorry, I've got a bit of a shadow running right the way through that, but I don't quite know how I can move it down a bit. That's a bit better. Right, so I've cut that, drew around it onto parchment paper, cut the shape out, and then I've just used loads of scraps. Just stuck them on willy-nilly. It doesn't have to be to the right shape. And then once it's all completely covered, I can then cut the shape back out again, and it makes a really nice finish. So we just go all the way around. Obviously this is the back end of it, the underside, which when I've finished I will peel it off of the parchment paper and then stick it back on to that parchment paper. But this just has a nice finish when you're using little bits to create one area of colour. This just works really well because it gives you a nice sharp cut as well. So just go all the way around. Go, and then we just peel it off of this, and it will fit, hopefully, just in the right place. Then I can then glue it straight down. Gone over my legs, so I'll have to just slightly peel those up when I'm doing them. I can just peel this back up and stick it back down again. And I've just got a slight little hole in there, so I'll just put something that I've already cut off. And that bit's done already. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to carry on with the white bits. I'll do them when I'm not videoing. But I'll just put in some of these red areas as well. So you can see me just sort of, what I'm going to do is tuck them under, I think. Although it might show through with the white, so I might have to be a bit careful. So I'm just going to do a pattern of what it needs to be. There was just that bit there. And there's just this tiny little bit over here as well. And that's quite a bright red. So I'm going to go with one of my brighter reds that I've managed to find, which is that. And what I'm just going to experiment and see how it looks. And I'm just going to turn this off for a minute. Actually can't see the red underneath it at all, so I'm quite happy with that. I was just worried that it would bleed through the white, and it will bleed through the white when the light is on, but the light's not going to be on it in real life, so that's why I wanted to turn it off and see what was happening. It won't be much of an overlap anyway. I'm going to cut it out quite carefully. I'm just going to recheck it now that it's glued, because sometimes that can make a difference. That's fine. Quite happy with that. I've just got this little tiny bit here that I can just slot something underneath there, I think. Fiddle a little bit. Just going to cut a nice edge on it. There we go. And I'm going to carry on down. Quite dark bit. I wish I could use that. Let's have a look in my That's good. I like that one. things wobbling about. Right, now possibly the hardest bit of all of it is this sort of writing bit up here. But don't be daunted by it, because it's mostly quite strong edges to cut round. Come on, paper. Right, that looks a little bit too thick there, so I'm just going to trim that down a bit. That's not very good. That's it's because it hasn't got enough Bonder web on it, so I'm going to redo it to make sure that this is stuck down nicely. Right, and then the alternative way of doing these smaller areas is to, especially if you struggle to hold on, just grab another pencil. If you struggle to hold on to the parchment paper and cut at the same time, which can be tricky, is I'm going to draw around all of this. like that. Just going to cut it out so it's a bit easier to handle. I'm going to peel back the paper I'm going to use, and then I'm just going to just draw around. I can actually see around that, it's fine. So I'm just going to stick that to the back of the bit that I want, and then actually I can't see it very well at all. So I'm going to draw around it again on the opposite side. Sometimes you can see it quite clearly, other times it just kind of disappears with the colour of the fabric. Right, and then tap it on there, and then I can see it quite clearly. Much easier to cut out like that than holding the parchment paper at the same time. If you have fiddly bits, this is the easiest way of doing it, I think. But it's a bit slower. But a bit more accurate. See, that's cut out really nicely. Better than the P. Just need to re-stick that on there, just come off. Now, of course, the tricky bit is that I'm going to have to take this off to put a piece behind. But it's good to get this all cut out before you put that on. Otherwise you're feeling about pulling it up and down and just one more bit of the post. Right. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just show you how I would go about putting the colour underneath it. So I'm going to ignore the office for the time being and do that at a separate time. So what I do is just draw it out as per usual. I'm going to ignore that line as well for the time being. I'll put that in afterwards. So that's the shape. And I want nice bright red for that. So we'll go with this again. I've got a lot of fabric with pattern on for red. Got textures of fabrics, different red fabrics, but not a lot with a pattern. Well, even a pattern that you can sort of adapt to this, because sometimes patterns don't always work with particular subjects. Right, so the way I'd go about it is I'd either stick it from the bottom or from the top. So go from the top, I think. I'm just going to slip that under into the right position. Just about there. And I'm going to fix it to the bit that I've got at the top, so that it's in position. It's a wee bit easier for me now because I've got a light box. It's easier to see things. So all then I'm going to do is peel that off and just pop it down in the place it was before. Just tap on it, get it in position without doing too much, because I don't want to get the iron sticking to all these bits as well. This really is where a light box comes in much more handy, because I can still see my pattern underneath all of this fabric. I've also used quite thin fabric as well. I love the fabric that you put in like coats and jackets and stuff. That very thin lining fabric is, I think, is great for this sort of thing. It leaves a really nice cut line, really precise. Try and get it straight. Yeah, I think that's right. Quite happy with that. And now it's stuck to all of this, I can literally lift the whole thing up and reposition it. So it's much easier to build it in sections like this, so that you can, I've got a little bit of white paper on here, trying to get off. There we go. So now I can go back and do my office. And I'm going to do it the same way as I did before, because that was really easy. So I'm just going to draw around it all. go. Then the same on the back side. Try and copy it accurately. Then I need the bit of fabric. What did I use? Did I use that? Yes. I'm just going to put this back into a spot so then I can stick straight down onto it. Work out which way round it should be, so it's that way, so it needs to be that side down. Don't forget, if you're doing the bigger size, he's going to be twice the size to do, so it'll be much easier. Can look, I can even see through the whole material from the top. Just want to trim a little bit off of that, make a slightly bigger gap. Right, nearly there. These little wedgy bits are the hardest bits to cut out. And the last one. There we go, that's the hardest part of the whole thing. And we've done it in 27 minutes, including me going on and on. So we should be all right. And like I said, if you think it's going to be a bit too fine and fiddly for you, do the bigger version. So I'm going to stop there for the video. I'm going to carry on, obviously, and get a bit more done. and then we'll come back and do, I don't know, maybe we'll do the label, or this ER bit might be, but we'll see. So bye for now.